as we do load into game number 1. And spawning in the top left hand corner of Hardlead, we have the Brazilian Terran player. Brazilian Terran representing himself, as he's currently teamless, but he just took down Skilless. It is Kelazhur. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the Chinese Protoss player representing Starlight Twinkle. It is ReWhite. Here we go. And yeah, I mean, again, we got to see some of these players face off earlier today against their respective opponents. Kelazhur took down Skilless, ReWhite took down Showtime, and now it all comes down to this. There can be only one, and who exactly will it be? So far, we're going to be loading into Hardlead, and of course, this isn't as extreme as some of the other maps that we've seen today, like Oceanborn and like Radisson Station. So I expect a more straight up standard game between these two players, but we'll see what standard really means. Again, I mentioned before in the previous series that Kelazhur can be a very dynamic player. He's one of those players that just isn't, that he's willing to try out different things, willing to play mech against Protoss, willing to go for all-ins and certain timing attacks. He's willing to delay his third base by quite a lot just to be aggressive and just to be in the face of the Protoss. So yeah, Kelazhur can be a very difficult player to read. Meanwhile, across the map, ReWhite is a player that we don't really have a lot of information on. Like, we get to cast him every now and then in events like WTL or the qualifiers of DreamHack, but he's not as active as other players. ReWhite, he's not always there for ESL Open Cups, or he's not always there for Sparkling Tuna Cups and some of the other online events. I believe ReWhite is active when it comes to the regional events, like Sunrise Cup, for example. There are some Chinese-only events that are run that we've considered casting before. We've thought about it. But yeah, so because of that, I'm curious as to what he brings to the table. I think based on previous games that we've casted, ReWhite is also fairly standard. I expect to see something like, I don't know, a Stargate opener into Colossus play, for example. Nothing too out of the norm. As the Reaper does dip in, it's going to be pushed back by the Sentry. And across the map, the first Zealot does make it in to delay the CC. Again, it was more of an economic opener here, but CC is going to be delayed. Cyclone in production, and in a couple of seconds, Kelazhur will be able to shut this down. It was, I believe, a double gas opener into a faster factory, into a delayed CC. Despite the delay, though, CC should be safe. Oh, interesting. Okay, it isn't just a singular Cyclone, we're making a second Cyclone as well. We've spoken about this as well, how the Cyclone, it feels the most impactful against Protoss. In the early game, we've seen a lot of Cyclone play, whether we have committed pushes or just for map control, and yeah, Kelazhur is going to be committing a little bit harder to this. This will be scouted by the hallucination, does confirm the 111, does confirm the lack of reactor on that factory, so we should be aware that it is unlikely we're going to be heading towards something like a mine drop. I mean, we see the second Cyclone coming out. And Kelazhur does make his way into the main, gets 2 probes, and gets a full scout confirming Blink on the way. Not Phoenixes, not a Stargate. So a good scout here from Kelazhur. He's now fully aware of what's going on, and we'll keep an eye on how many gateways get thrown down for ReWhite. Meanwhile, across the map, we're just getting into our 2-on-1, soon to be 3 racks setup here. There we go, third racks is on the way. A pretty standard production setup here on 2 bases. But Kelazhur is zooming across the map with every single one of his Marines and with his Cyclones to support. Now these Marines they're really here to support the Cyclones the other way around, just because there's no stim. Like the Marines, they don't really have too much DPS, the Cyclones do. Oh, the medevac! Medevac takes a lot of hits when we push on forward. There is no shield battery. No shield battery, no overcharge. The first 2 units are going to be going down, and Kelazhur, he is breaking through. Nothing is left. The boys are being pulled into this army. It's a meat grinder. GG gets called, and just like that, Kelazhur takes game number 1. Ah, GG. And we saw something similar against Skilless, where Kelazhur, again, he can be a very unpredictable player. He can come at you at any moment, and here he was just building up his Cyclones. The Cyclones were scattered. Remember, both Cyclones were scattered by the hallucination. despite that, we also even saw, I don't think ReWhite saw the medevac, but he did see the starport building. And alas, Kelazhur got across the map, and ReWhite was woefully underprepared, unfortunately. Underprepared, and now we're getting into our next game. Getting into game number 2. Okay. Game 2 is going to be on Hecate. Oh, let's go. Going to be on Hecate. And once again, this is going to be a much more standard, or I say standard map. It's a little bit more macro oriented. There are less like crazy features that we see on Alkione or again Radisset Station, for example. But ReWhite, it's going to be on him to get a read on what's going on, to scout his opponent, and to keep up with him. Here we go. Slow clones OP. I mean, again, Cyclones, they're pretty strong in the early game. Pretty strong. Especially against Protoss. But here we go. We're getting into our next game. And hopefully this time, if we see the Cyclones, we are able to set up for them and we are able to survive them. Until then, though, spawning in the top right-hand corner of Hecate, we have the Brazilian Terran player. The Orange Terran. Up 1-0 in this best of 3 series. It is Kelazhur. And spawning in the bottom left, we have his opponent. We have the Chinese Protoss. Representing Starlight Twinkle, it is ReWhite. Boy, here we go. Now, again, I expect Kelazhur to be the aggressor again. I expect it, but we'll see if ReWhite shifts gears. As a reminder, last game did go for a Twilight Council opener into Blink. That was the opener here of ReWhite. We'll see if he switches it up or if he commits to Blink Stalkers once again. Back. As we do have a double gas opener out of Kelazhur, so pretty similar to last game. Kelazhur, he's going to be delaying his expansion. He's going to be delaying a CC here in favor of a faster factory. We saw that come to fruition in game 1, where Kelazhur went for a Cyclone and ended up going for a double Cyclone push. We'll see if ReWhite is able to recognize the opener and prepare. But now, first Zealot is on the way. Once again, he may even send it across the map like he did previously. As it is a gate, Cyber expands out of ReWhite. Here we go. So basically, Kelazhur is looking to take control of the game again, be in the driver's seat. Again, with double gas means faster factory. Factory's on the way, reactor as well. And eventually we should be seeing that CC, that natural base. As the first Zealot does walk across the map, but does get caught out by the Reaper. And the Zealots will not be able to get any damage done. Really good, really cute use here of the tall grass, but oh, the Zealot is even going to be recalled. As ReWhite doesn't want to throw his units away. We'll save the Zealot. Back at home, Cyclone opener from Kelazhur. Reaper slips into the main base, and outside of just getting damage done on the Zealot, does also get a full scout of the main, confirms that Twilight Council opener once again, can deduce that it is going to be Blink Stalkers. And this is looking like the same opener. We have a CC, this time on the high ground, so a safe CC, so in case the Zealot or an Adept got across the map, it won't be delayed. We can just get this up and running. First Cyclone is on the way, second Cyclone as well. Medevac will be, sorry, Starport will be making a Medevac, and we are just banking up these Marines. Same opener, same build. 2 games in a row from Kelazhur. Now the question is, can ReWhite adapt and overcome this? First Cyclone gets across now, gets a lock on and will take down the sentry. Pretty big pickoff already. Oh, does not get the Zealot in the end, and the Cyclone is going to take a lot of hits, but survives. That's what's important. The Cyclone does survive. Second Cyclone arrives. We have the Reaper dipping into the main base, just making sure there's no DT or no Dark Shrine, confirming the Blink is on the way, and getting an eye on the gateway count. We have 1 gateway in the main. We have a second gateway here at the natural. It's a 2-gate opener. Very economic. I imagine this is going to be 2-gate opener into a 3rd base. Yep, 3rd is being taken. So again, very economic here out of ReWhite. And Kelazhur is building up his forces. Here we go. I think we may see a repeat. Okay, the biggest difference this time, we have a shield battery. We do have a shield battery at the natural, but we just chrono boosted, which means we do not have energy for an overcharge. Not yet. We are up to 4 Stalkers, but as a result, we have 3 Cyclones this time. Medevac boosts into the main base. Gonna try to pull ReWhite out of position. As the Marines are dropped and probes are going down. Stalkers are reacting at the same time. Cyclones want to catch those Stalkers. But Blink is done, and the Stalkers, they will be saved. A shield battery keeps them alive. 1 Cyclone goes down at the same time. The Marines are wreaking havoc in the main base. 5 probes go down. Now ReWhite, he will survive, but he did lose quite a lot. He will lose the pylon. Pylon does go down. Boys have to be pulled, and ReWhite should regain control of his main base. He's going to go back to mining, but that was quite a lot of damage already. Now Kelazhur didn't lose too much either. Looking at the units lost tab here, Kelazhur, he lost 3 Marines, 1 Cyclone, and a Reaper. And he was able to get economic damage done and even get a couple of Stalkers as well. So that was a better trade from Kelazhur, but at least ReWhite survives this time. So again, he was able to recognize that it was the same build, and this time he makes it out. Good adaptation out of ReWhite. Now, because he got a faster 3rd base, he can of course replace those workers a lot faster as well. I'm sure he would have liked a better economic situation, but regardless, you know, he's still making 3 probes at a time. Straight into a robotics bay, straight into Colossus production. Bay is done, Colossus should be on the way. Behind this, Kelazhur working on a 2-base push. Pretty standard production setup here, but instead of going for a 3rd base, we are moving out across the map. We have 2 tanks alongside these Cyclones. We can still throw down a 3rd behind this. This isn't all in by any means, but very committed nonetheless. We're going Disruptor? Oh, he's crazy. He's crazy, but he takes down 1 of the Cyclones. But Kel's just pushing up this ramp. The Disruptor is very high risk, high reward. Some of these Stalkers are going down already. Here we go, the first Disruptor has arrived, and how good is the Nova going to be? Nova goes up! Oh, and it gets targeted down, and that is why it's so risky going for a Disruptor first instead of a Colossus, as everything's going to be going down. The base has been broken, boys are pulled, GG gets called, and Kelazhur takes game number 2 and the series 2-0. GG. GG, well played. Bold move, Kelazhur. Bold move, ReWhite. Bold move to go for a Disruptor first, which again is just a really risky thing to do, just because you don't have consistent splash damage like a Colossus. And there's if we did have a Colossus there in that situation, there's no way for Kelazhur to dive on it. He had no Marauders. He had 1 Cyclone. He just had very limited potential with his army to get on top of that. So again, was a risky move out of ReWhite, didn't pay off. Also, he wasn't able to scout the move out. That's the more important thing, is that he didn't see the army move out across the map, so he wasn't ready for that push. He wasn't in position. He was lacking some warp ins as well, and GG. GG, well played. Congratulations to Kelazhur as he does advance on.